The wait is almost over, folks. UFC 300 is tomorrow night. Can't explain how hyped I am for this event. I think it's going to be amazing, and I think it has the potential to exceed expectations. So, first fight of the main card. All right, and this is going to be a predictions video. If you're yet to make your picks yet for the event, make your picks here. All right, so we're starting off with Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage. Bo Nickel by a first round submission or TKO. And that's about all I have to say about that. Moving on, Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. This is one of those fights that I'm really on the fence about. But I have to say, breaking it down, Charles is really aggressive. We know that. He's adapted his game to be more aggressive, especially with his clinch, his knees in the clinch. He does a great job with his front kicks. His jab straights, does a great job pressuring with his boxing, especially when his opponents have their back against the cage. And for Tsarukyan, it's been almost the same thing. Only difference is being Arman likes to throw more head kicks, I would say, and likes to mix up his attacks a little bit more with those spinning kicks and spinning back fists. He likes to mix it up like that on occasion. And when it comes to his grappling, unlike Charles, it's less submission focused and more wrestling focused. Has these beautiful single and double leg takedowns, beautiful body lock takedowns, just great stuff to watch, especially his fight with Matt Frevola. If you haven't checked that out, definitely check that out. Now, how is that going to fare when they're against each other? Well, Oliveira is going to move forward regardless, and that hasn't always been the smartest decision because I think at this level, I don't know if he could take the kind of punches that maybe a Tony Ferguson or what's another good lightweight example of the old Frankie Edgar and the old Tony Ferguson. I don't think he has the kind of chin that those guys used to have when they were in the lightweight division, but I do think that it's successful for him regardless. And if he was willing to do it against Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, then he's definitely going to be willing to do it against Tsarukyan. And Tsarukyan will fight back, no doubt about it. So they might be in the center for a good amount of time. But there's something I noticed in a lot of Tsarukyan's dominant wins. Matt Frevola, he got hurt. One of his more recent decision wins, he got hurt. When he gets hit, he doesn't seem to take the punches very well. His recovery is great because he's always in great shape. But I do think that Charles could hurt him, especially considering Charles was able to drop Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler when he first won the title. And those guys, it takes a lot to knock those guys down. I just don't think Tsarukyan has the kind of chin durability to be able to withstand Charles, his pressure and everything. And I don't know if the grappling's really going to work that well against Charles. I know that he got out-grappled against Makhachev, but even so, it's still Islam Makhachev. And to be fair, Tsarukyan did get out-grappled himself in that fight. So Islam's on a different level right now. And for a prediction for this fight, factoring everything in, I'm going to go with either a second round TKO or submission for Oliveira, or he's going to win by decision. Now moving on, we have Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway. Justin Gaethje by decision 100%. Holloway fought Dustin Poirier. And in a lot of ways, Gaethje might be worse for him. He's going to attack that front leg a lot more, which is something Holloway struggled with against Jose Aldo and Alex Volkanovski. And he's going to be at a significant power disadvantage and weight disadvantage, no doubt. It's going to be similar to the Poirier fight, I think. He'll stay in it. He's a very tough guy, always has been. So I think he'll show that durability and toughness in this fight. But I think it's not going to make a difference in the result. I think Gaethje's going to beat up his legs. I think he's going to hurt him a few times on the feet with those brutal hooks that he has, especially if Justin gets a little bit hurt himself, makes him more dangerous. Justin Gaethje by a dominant decision to win this fight. Now, moving on, we have Weili Zhang versus Yan Xiaonan. I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong. And for this fight, I think this one might be pretty clear too. Weili Zhang by a third round TKO or submission. I think she has what it takes to finish Zonan here, and especially considering Zonan got finished by Carlos Esparza not too long ago. And we saw, not that MMA math always works, but I do think just with her style, especially in the Jessica Andrade fight, even though she won that by knockout, she leaves her chin in the air a lot, and she has a tendency to start brawling when her opponent moves in on her. And you know Zhang's going to move forward the whole time. So I think it'll be a fairly dominant third round finish for Zhang. And now moving on to the UFC 300 main event. We got Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill. Now, Pereira, as we all know now, came from kickboxing, heard Israel Adesanya talking some smack about him, decided to show up to the UFC and let him know what was up. And from that point on, the rest is history. And it's crazy to believe that this guy is now the light heavyweight champion in his 9th or 10th professional MMA fight. Insane, truly a once in a lifetime combat sports athlete. And for Jamal Hill, everyone is doubting him right now. He has a chip on his shoulder. You could see it in the interviews, especially the one he did with Demetrius Johnson. And he wants to knock Pereira out. He's made that very clear. He doesn't want to grapple him. He wants to stick to his skills on the feet and win by KO. Will that happen? Well, let's get to that. So, analyzing both of their styles, we know Alex's tendencies. He has the tendency to kind of hop in his stance a little bit, especially when he's moving forward. It's almost like a way he masks his attacks when he's coming in the pocket, and he loves to utilize those leg kicks, which are brutal. Daniel Cormier even tested it out, and we know how tough he is. So if Daniel's in pain from it, that's a hard kick. So we know he likes to utilize his leg kicks. We know he loves his left hook, and those are his key weapons. It's what worked for him against Yuri Prohaska. Yuri came in the pocket too quickly. Pereira landed a very short left hand with not a lot of wind up on it, and that was enough to put him out, essentially. And then, he eventually finished him a few seconds later. And for Hill, we know he loves the check right hook. He's a southpaw. Great left body kicks. Just honestly underrated boxing skills too. Sometimes he has the tendency to brawl, but that might have been, some of his older fights, like his fight with Thiago Santos. Looking back at his Glover Teixeira win, which was probably the best performance of his career, it looked like he had tightened that up a little bit better. Now, here's the thing. Now, it seems like the Teixeira fight and the fact that Teixeira lasted so long and the fact that Teixeira's older, that fight result seems to leave some doubt in people's minds. But it really shouldn't, because it's a completely different fight. Not saying that Glover is better than Pereira, but you could at least admit the fact that it's two different fighters. You have a guy that Glover's 6'1", kind of stockier build, likes to grapple a lot more, likes to keep his boxing short and tight. And you have Pereira, likes to fight very long, uses kicks, 6'4". So it's a completely different fight. And some of the advantages that Pereira had again in middleweight is not something that's carrying over extremely well to his light heavyweight career. Even though he was able to knock Prohaska out, everyone seems to be forgetting how that fight was going prior to the knockout. Same with his fight against Jan Blachowicz. Jan arguably could have won that fight. It was a split decision, and Jan exposed his grappling weakness, and also didn't seem to be too phased by Pereira striking on the feet. He seemed to be able to keep it pretty even for the most part, and it was a pretty close fight. Now for Hill, um, let's talk about their height and reach. They're going to be matched, and I believe their reach is identical too, or maybe Pereira has a 1 inch edge on him, which isn't that much. So they're evenly matched in that regard. So the fights that Pereira was used to having at middleweight against the likes of Sean Strickland and I would even argue Adesanya, just because Adesanya wasn't that imposing of a guy despite being on the taller side. It just doesn't seem like they're carrying over extremely well to light heavyweight. Even in the Yuri Prohaska fight, he struggled a little bit with the range, and when Prohaska was able to pressure him, Prohaska landed some really good shots, especially in that first round. Um, and Hill loves to move forward, of course. The question is going to be how he handles the leg kicks. I look back at his fight with Thiago Santos. He doesn't check them very well, which is going to be a problem in this fight. And I can't, for the life of me, find what leg was injured on Jamal Hill. If any of you guys know which leg was injured, definitely let me know. Before the fight starts tomorrow, because that might change my prediction entirely, which I'm still not even sure what it is. I'm trying to talk it out tonight and just, see what I think here, because this is a lot closer than what people think. And I'm definitely a fan of both guys. There's no bias here. I kind of bet on Pereira when he fought Prohaska, which I think a lot of people doubted at that time just because of Prohaska's pedigree. But I'm not so sure about betting on him for this fight. I think Hill has a lot of skills here, and I think he's got a really solid chance himself. Now, the reach is going to be very similar. So Pereira is not going to be able to kind of bounce his way into the pocket like he's used to doing. And Hill does a great job with that check right hook if Pereira does try to enter the pocket. When it comes to kicks, there's no doubt that Pereira is going to try to throw that leg kick, and how he reacts off of that first leg kick is going to determine who wins that fight. No doubt about it. If Hill hasn't been, and I'm sure Hill knows this, I'm sure his camp knows this, that they got to be drilling the leg kicks, because it's such an important part of this fight. More important than the jab, I would argue, right now. And so if we just try to picture it. So let's say Hill moves forward like he tends to do. Pereira kind of goads him into the pocket a little bit like he likes to do sometimes. Jamal could do very good work when he has Pereira's back against the fence, because Pereira got beat up against Prohaska when Prohaska was able to pressure him and get him cornered against the fence. Now, with that being said, that's also where Pereira could be very dangerous too. We saw it when Yuri entered the pocket. He got hit with that quick right and left, dropped, and Pereira has that instinct to end the fight quickly short after that. Um, so we know how that exchange could be if Hill does put the pressure on. So it could be like an even thing in that scenario. And it'll lend well in Hill's favor as long as he doesn't do what Prohaska did, which was going head first, which I don't think he would do anyway. But as long as he could avoid getting too close to Pereira in that exchange, he might be okay. Now, if Pereira is able to pressure him, and if I had to guess, this would be based off of how successful his leg kicks are. This fight could be pretty bad for Hill as well. If he's able to land his leg kicks and it gets Hill to back up against the fence, Pereira has an insane instinct to shut a guy's lights out. It's what he did against Adesanya in their first fight in middleweight, and just I could already picture it. He's going to throw those uppercuts like he likes to do, those hooks. Might even try to throw a knee in the tie clinch. So it could be pretty bad for Hill if that does happen. However, we got to think back to his loss against Adesanya for Pereira. He got knocked out. in their second fight. Now the question is, how much of that was the weight cut problem and dehydration problem, and how much of that was an actual technical error that cost him? I think it's a little bit of both. I think that he made an error getting Adesanya to shell up. I think he reacted too quick. I think he got too invested in trying to get a finish, and I think Adesanya made him pay for it. Now, with that being said, I don't know. It's hard to say with Hill though, because it's not like we've really seen him hurt that bad. He tends to have a really good chin, especially in the Santos fight. You gotta check that fight again and see how many shots he got hit with. But so we haven't really seen Hill in that situation. But I have no doubt that he would scrap it out and he would throw back. But I don't know if it would be as precise as Adesanya was able to do it. Um, so let's talk about another scenario here. If Hill tries to take him down, that's another game changer, especially if he's been working on his grappling. And I think even if he hasn't, it takes a lot longer than a few years to really get to a mixed martial arts UFC level of grappling skill. So if Hill's able to take him down at will, if he is really bluffing, saying that he's only going to strike, then that's a potential huge game changer too for this fight. Do I think it's going to happen? Maybe. I'm not too confident that Hill's going to try to take him down. But again, moving on here. So we covered the grappling, some of the striking exchanges. Now, if it's in the center, I think if it stays in the center and it stays technical, Pereira is going to win this. If Hill's able to close the distance, make it a dirtier fight, really do what he does best, I really think Hill could get this done. So enough with me rambling on about this fight. Let's make a pick right here. So Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, factoring everything in. For now, let's go with. This is tough, man. We're gonna go with Jamal Hill by third round TKO. That's it. Hope you like the picks. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope you all enjoy UFC 300 tomorrow. And yeah, just again, let me know what you think. If you did like the video, leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. And this was Vince from Crushing Strength, Fitness, and MMA. And until next time, see you later.